Baby saw a German shepherd crying in a broken washing machine. What happened next left everyone in tears. The sound that 5-year-old Tommy Martinez heard that morning would change everything. What he discovered in the abandoned house next door left his entire neighborhood speechless. And what happened after that will absolutely break your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. Tommy's small fingers pressed against the kitchen window, leaving perfect handprints on the glass, still foggy from his breath. Outside, the morning sun painted golden streaks across the overgrown yard of the abandoned house next door. His mother, Maria, was humming softly while scrambling eggs, the sizzle of the pan mixing with the distant sound of his father Carlos's drill from the garage. It was supposed to be just another Saturday morning in their quiet Texas neighborhood. Then he heard it. A sound so faint that at first Tommy thought he was imagining it. Not quite a bark, not quite a howl, but something in between. Something that made his chest feel tight and his eyes water, even though he didn't know why. "Mommy," Tommy said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Someone's crying." Maria glanced over her shoulder, spatula in hand. "That's just the wind, baby. Sometimes it makes funny sounds through the old house next door." But Tommy knew it wasn't the wind. The sound came again, weaker this time, like whoever was making it was running out of strength to call for help. His small hand pressed harder against the glass, and suddenly, clear as if someone had spoken directly into his ear, he heard a voice, not with his ears, but somewhere deeper, somewhere behind his thoughts. "Please, someone, help me." Tommy stumbled backward, his eyes wide. The voice wasn't human. It was rough, desperate, and somehow he just knew, it belonged to a dog. "Mommy!" Tommy's voice rose with urgency. "There's a dog! He's hurt! He's calling for help!" Maria set down the spatula, concern creasing her forehead as she walked over to her son. "Tommy, honey, there's no dog next door. That house has been empty for 2 years. But I can hear him." Tears started rolling down Tommy's cheeks, though he couldn't explain why he felt so much pain that wasn't his own. "His name is Bruno. He's stuck, and he can't get out, and he's so scared." Maria knelt down, wiping her son's tears with her thumb. "How do you know his name is Bruno?" Tommy's lower lip trembled. He told me, in my head. "Please, Mommy, we have to help him." The rational part of Maria wanted to dismiss this as childhood imagination, but something in Tommy's eyes, a certainty that seemed far beyond his 5 years, made her pause. She'd seen that look only once before, when Tommy had insisted their neighbor Mrs. Chen was sick 3 days before she had her heart attack. "Carlos," Maria called toward the garage, "can you come here for a minute?" Heavy footsteps approached, and Carlos appeared in the doorway, safety goggles pushed up on his forehead, sawdust in his dark hair. "What's wrong?" "Tommy says there's a dog trapped next door," Maria explained, her voice carefully neutral. "He says the dog's name is Bruno." Carlos's eyebrows rose. "Next door? In the Hendersons' old place? That's been boarded up since—" "Please, Daddy." Tommy grabbed his father's hand, pulling with all his might. "Bruno says he's been there for 2 days. He's so thirsty and his legs hurt, and he's stuck in something metal and cold." Carlos and Maria exchanged a look. That silent communication parents perfect over years of marriage. Finally, Carlos sighed and removed his safety goggles completely. "All right, buddy. Let's go take a look, but you stay close to me, okay? That old house isn't safe." Tommy nodded frantically, already pulling his father toward the door. Maria grabbed her phone, slipping it into her pocket as she followed. The morning air was thick with humidity, typical for August in Texas, and the grass between the two properties was tall enough to tickle Tommy's chin. The abandoned house loomed before them, its windows dark and empty like hollow eyes, paint peeling from its sides like dead skin. "I don't hear anything," Carlos said, but Tommy was already running toward the backyard, his parents hurrying to keep up. The backyard was a jungle of overgrown weeds and rusted lawn equipment. An old swing set stood like a skeleton against the far fence, its chains creaking in the slight breeze. And there, in the corner near what used to be a garden shed, sat an ancient washing machine, its once white surface now streaked with rust and dirt. Tommy pointed, his whole body trembling. "There! He's in there!" Carlos approached cautiously, Maria holding Tommy back, despite his struggles to run forward. As Carlos got closer, he heard it, a weak, pitiful whimper coming from inside the machine. Jesus Christ, Carlos breathed, quickening his pace. He peered into the washing machine, and his heart nearly stopped. Inside, crammed into the drum at an impossible angle, was a German shepherd. The dog's brown eyes were glazed with pain and dehydration, its breathing shallow and labored. Dried blood crusted around cuts on its legs where it had clearly tried to escape, and its beautiful black and tan coat was matted with dirt and what looked like motor oil. "Oh my God," Maria gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "How did it even get in there?" The washing machine's door was jammed partially closed, held in place by a piece of metal that had been wedged into the locking mechanism. This wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately trapped this dog. "Bruno!" Tommy cried out, and to everyone's amazement, the dog's ears perked up slightly, its tail attempting a weak wag despite the confined space. Carlos was already examining the door mechanism. "Maria, call animal control. We need help getting him out. And bring me the toolbox from the garage, the red one." But Tommy had broken free from his mother's grip and was now kneeling beside the washing machine, his small hand reaching through a gap to touch the dog's fur. "It's okay, Bruno," he whispered. "We're here now. We're going to get you out." The dog's eyes focused on Tommy with an intensity that made Carlos pause in his examination of the door. There was something almost human in that gaze, something that went beyond normal animal intelligence. "Tommy, be careful," Maria warned, but she was already dialing on her phone. "He won't hurt me," Tommy said with absolute certainty. "He says thank you. He says there are other friends who need help too." Carlos froze. "What do you mean others?" Tommy's face scrunched up in concentration, as if he was listening to something only he could hear. "In the bad place. Under the ground where it's dark. They cry at night, but nobody comes." His voice had taken on a distant quality that sent chills down both parents' spines. "Bruno escaped, but the bad man caught him and put him here as punishment." Maria lowered her phone, the call to animal control forgotten. "Tommy, honey, how do you know all this?" "Bruno's showing me," Tommy said simply, his hand still stroking the dog's matted fur. "In pictures in my head. Like a movie, but sad." Carlos grabbed a crowbar from the pile of old tools near the shed. "Whatever's going on, we need to get this dog out now. He's in bad shape." He worked the crowbar into the gap where the metal piece was wedged, careful not to hurt the dog. Bruno remained remarkably still, his eyes never leaving Tommy's face. After several minutes of careful prying, the metal piece suddenly gave way with a sharp crack, and the door swung open. Bruno tried to move, but yelped in pain, his back legs refusing to support him. Carlos reached in carefully, his strong arm sliding under the dog's body. "Easy, boy. I've got you." As he lifted Bruno out, something caught his eye, a collar unlike any he'd ever seen. It was black, made of some kind of synthetic material, with what looked like electronic components embedded in it. A small red light blinked steadily near the buckle. "What the hell is that?" Maria asked, leaning in for a closer look. Before Carlos could answer, Tommy spoke up, his voice matter of fact. "It's so they can find him. The bad men. It tells them where he is." Carlos set Bruno down gently on the grass, the dog immediately trying to crawl toward Tommy despite his injured legs. "We need to get this collar off," Carlos said, but when he reached for it, he found no buckle, no clasp, no visible way to remove it. "Hello? You called about an animal emergency?" a woman's voice called from the front of the house. Maria hurried around to meet her, returning moments later with a woman in her 30s wearing khaki pants and a polo shirt with Dr. Emma Chen, DVM, embroidered on the pocket. "I'm sorry," Maria said, slightly confused. "I called animal control, not a vet." Dr. Chen smiled, kneeling beside Bruno with practiced ease. "I volunteer with them on weekends. They forward emergency calls to me when—" She stopped mid-sentence, her face paling as she saw the collar. "Oh no, not another one." "Another one?" Carlos asked sharply. "You've seen these collars before?" Dr. Chen was already examining Bruno, her hands gentle but efficient as she checked his injuries. 3 dogs in the past 2 months, all German shepherds or similar breeds, all wearing these collars, all showing signs of... She paused, glancing at Tommy. Intensive training. Fighting, Tommy said quietly. They made Bruno fight other dogs. But he didn't want to. He tried to protect the smaller ones, so they hurt him. Dr. Chen's hands stilled. She looked at Tommy with a mixture of surprise and something else. Recognition? How do you know that, sweetheart? Bruno told me, Tommy said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Most adults would have dismissed this, but Doctor. Chen studied Tommy carefully. Can you tell what he's feeling right now? Tommy nodded. He's scared, but happy. His right back leg hurts the most. Something's broken inside. He's very thirsty and his chest feels tight when he breathes. And he's worried about someone named Max. Max is still in the bad place. Dr. Chen pulled out her stethoscope, checking Bruno's chest. He's right about the breathing, possible rib fractures. She gently manipulated the right back leg, and Bruno whimpered. And definitely trauma to this leg. She looked up at Carlos and Marias with an expression of barely controlled amazement. Your son? He's describing things he couldn't possibly know just by looking. Maria's arms wrapped protectively around Tommy. What's happening here? What is all this about? Dr. Chen stood, pulling out her phone. I need to make a call. There's someone who needs to know about this. She stepped away, speaking urgently into her phone, while Carlos and Maria exchanged worried glances. Tommy remained focused on Bruno, whispering things they couldn't quite hear. The dog's tail wagged weakly whenever Tommy spoke, and occasionally Bruno would make soft sounds in response, almost like he was trying to talk back. We need to get him water, Tommy announced. And he says the collar hurts. It shocks him if he goes too far from where they want him to be. Carlos's jaw clenched. What kind of sick person would Mr. and Mrs. Martinez? Dr. Chen had returned, her face grave. I've just spoken with Detective Sarah Walsh from the County Sheriff's Department. She's been investigating a string of dog disappearances that we believe are connected to an illegal operation. She's on her way here now. Illegal operation? Maria's voice was tight with worry. Dog fighting ring, Doctor, Chen said quietly, glancing at Tommy to see if he was listening. He was, but his attention remained on Bruno. But it's more than that. These collars, the specific breeds being taken, the training methods, this is organized crime, not just some backyard operation. Carlos ran a hand through his hair. And Bruno escaped from these people? It appears so. The fact that he was trapped in that washing machine, that's a message. A warning to other dogs that might think about running. Dr. Chen's voice was grim. These people are dangerous. As if sensing the tension, Bruno struggled to sit up, a low growl rumbling in his chest as he stared toward the street. Tommy's eyes widened. Someone's coming. Someone bad. A black sedan with tinted windows cruised slowly past the front of the house, barely visible through the gap between buildings. It slowed almost to a stop, then continued on. Get Bruno inside, Doctor, Chen said urgently. Now! Carlos scooped up the injured dog, ignoring the smears of blood and dirt on his shirt. They hurried toward the Martinez house, Tommy right beside them, his small hand maintaining contact with Bruno's fur. Once inside, Maria quickly laid out old towels on the living room floor, while Dr. Chen grabbed her medical bag from her truck. Carlos filled a large bowl with water, which Bruno lapped at desperately, Tommy holding the bowl steady with his small hands. The collar, Tommy said urgently. We have to get it off. They're using it to find him right now. Dr. Chen examined it more closely, pulling out a small device from her bag. It's definitely a GPS tracker, but it's been modified. These wires here, she pointed to thin filaments running through the collar material. They're set up to deliver electric shocks. This is military-grade equipment. Expensive. Whoever's behind this has serious resources. The doorbell rang, making everyone jump. Carlos peered through the peephole, then relaxed slightly. It's a police detective. Detective Sarah Walsh was younger than they'd expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes and an alert posture that spoke of military training. She showed her badge, then her eyes immediately went to Bruno. Another one, she said grimly. That makes 4 this month. 4? Maria asked. How many dogs are missing? In the Tri-County area? At least 30 that we know of. Probably more that haven't been reported. Detective Walsh knelt beside Bruno, noting the collar. Dr. Chen, can you remove it? Not without specialized tools. It's designed to be permanent. If I try to cut it, it could hurt him. Tommy spoke up, his young voice cutting through the adult's conversation. Bruno says there's a way. The bad man with silver hair has a special tool. He keeps it in his pocket. It looks like a pen, but it's not. Detective Walsh's attention snapped to Tommy. The man with silver hair? Can Bruno tell you anything else about him? Tommy closed his eyes, his hand resting on Bruno's head. The room fell silent except for Bruno's labored breathing. His name starts with S. Stephen? No, Sterling. Mr. Sterling. He wears expensive suits and smells like cigarettes. And something chemical. Bruno doesn't like him. He's the one who decides which dogs fight and which ones. Tommy's voice trailed off, his face paling. Which ones what, honey? Maria asked gently, though her heart was racing. Which ones don't come back? Tommy whispered. Detective Walsh was taking rapid notes. Vincent Sterling. We've had him on our radar for other activities, but could never connect him to the missing dogs. She looked at Tommy with a mixture of skepticism and hope. Tommy, what else can Bruno tell you? The bad place is underground, Tommy said, his eyes still closed. You go through a big building that looks empty, but it's not. There's a door that looks like a wall, and stairs that go down and down. It smells like fear and blood and something that burns your nose. There are cages, so many cages. Some dogs have been there so long, they don't remember the sun. Tears were streaming down Tommy's face now, though his voice remained steady. There's a puppy named Rosie who cries for her mom every night, and an old dog named King who tries to comfort the scared ones, even though his own legs don't work right anymore. And Max, Bruno's friend Max, he's sick, really sick. They gave him something that makes him mean, but inside he's still good. He just can't control it. Dr. Chen was staring at Tommy in amazement. This is incredible. He's describing things that match witness testimonies from other states where fighting rings have been busted. Detective Walsh stood. I need to call this in. If even half of what Bruno is telling us is accurate, we're dealing with something much bigger than we thought. She stepped outside to make her call. Maria sat down beside Tommy, pulling him into her lap. Baby, this is scary stuff. You don't have to keep listening if it's too much. Tommy shook his head. Bruno needs me to listen. Nobody else can hear him. And he says... Tommy paused, his forehead wrinkling in concentration. He says I'm special, that some humans can hear what animals are really saying, but most people forget how when they grow up. He says, I have to help because I'm the only one who understands. Carlos knelt beside his family. Tommy, this gift you have, how long have you been able to do this? Tommy shrugged. Always, I think. But usually animals don't have so much to say. Mrs. Patterson's cat just complains about the food, and the birds mostly talk about weather and where to find worms. But Bruno has important things to say. Dr. Chen had been working on Bruno's wounds while they talked, cleaning cuts and administering antibiotics. He needs surgery on that leg, she said, and probably x-rays to check for internal injuries. But I'm worried about moving him while that collar is active. If it has a proximity sensor and we take him too far from wherever he's supposed to be. It'll shock him, Tommy finished. Really bad. Bruno says it happened when he tried to run the first time. It made him fall, down and shake, and he couldn't breathe right. Detective Walsh returned, her face grim but determined. I've got authorization to put together a task force. The Vincent Sterling connection opened doors. He's been on the FBI's watch list for interstate trafficking, but we need more information about the location. Bruno's tired, Tommy said, his own eyes drooping. He says thinking about the bad place makes him sad and scared. Can he rest now? Of course, Doctor, Chen said gently. But Tommy, before he sleeps, can you ask him one more thing? Does he remember any landmarks near the bad place? Anything that might help us find it? Tommy stroked Bruno's fur, whispering something too quiet for the adults to hear. Bruno's ears perked up slightly and he made a soft whining sound. He says there's a water tower, Tommy reported. An old one with a bird painted on it, a bluebird, and the building above the bad place used to make something that smelled sweet, like cookies, but not cookies. And there's train tracks nearby. He could hear the trains at night, and they made the cages rattle. Detective Walsh was typing rapidly on her phone. Old water tower with a blue bird. Train tracks. Former food processing plant, maybe. Her eyes lit up. The old Sunshine Bakery complex. It's been abandoned for 5 years, but Sterling's company bought it 18 months ago, supposedly for redevelopment, but no work has been done. That's 15 miles from here, Carlos said, in the industrial district. We need to move fast, Detective Walsh said. If they know Bruno escaped and might have been found, they'll relocate the whole operation. They've done it before in other states. A loud knock at the door made everyone freeze, not the doorbell, a hard, authoritative knock that seemed to shake the whole frame. Mr. and Mrs. Martinez, this is Regional Animal Services. We've had a report of a dangerous stray dog on your property. We need you to open the door immediately. Tommy's face went white. That's not real animal services. That's Mr. Sterling's voice. Bruno says he's here to take him back. And Tommy's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. He wants to meet me. He knows I can hear Bruno. He's been looking for someone like me. The knock came again, harder. Open up, or we'll be forced to involve the authorities. Detective Walsh had her hand on her service weapon. Nobody answer that. Carlos, take your family and Bruno to the back bedroom. Lock the door. Dr. Chen, call 911 and report suspicious persons impersonating government officials. We know you're in there, Sterling's voice called through the door. We tracked the animal to this location. Harboring a dangerous animal is a crime, Mr. Martinez. But we're willing to overlook it if you cooperate. We're particularly interested in meeting your son. We've been watching, you see. We know he has a special connection with animals. That's a valuable gift. We could make it worth your while. Maria's arms tightened around Tommy. He's been watching us? The black sedan, Carlos said grimly. It's been driving by our house for days. I thought I was being paranoid. Bruno struggled to his feet despite his injuries, a low growl building in his chest. His eyes were fixed on the door, every muscle tense despite the pain it must have caused him. He says, Mister, Sterling has a gun, Tommy whispered, and there are 2 more men in the car. They have equipment to take Bruno and me. Like hell they do, Carlos growled, moving toward his family. Mr. Martinez, Sterling's voice had taken on a harder edge. You have no idea what you're interfering with. This operation has connections you can't imagine. Police, judges, politicians. One phone call and your family could face troubles you've never dreamed of. Or you could cooperate and be rewarded. The boy's gift is rare. We could teach him to use it properly. Think of the possibilities. Detective Walsh was on her radio, calling for backup. This is Detective Walsh, badge number 4827. I need immediate backup at 423 Maple Street. Suspects in human trafficking case are attempting forced entry. Human trafficking? Maria whispered. If they want Tommy for his ability, that's what it becomes, Walsh explained grimly. The doorknob rattled. Then came the sound of metal on metal, someone working on the lock. They're breaking in, Carlos said, grabbing a baseball bat from the hall closet. Back door, Detective Walsh commanded. Everyone out the back door now. They moved quickly, Carlos carrying Bruno, despite the dog's size, Tommy right beside them, with his hand on Bruno's fur. Dr. Chen grabbed her medical bag and followed. They could hear the front door opening just as they slipped out the back. My car, Doctor, Chen whispered, pointing to her pickup truck parked on the side street. They ran across the backyard, Bruno whimpering with each jostle, but staying quiet otherwise. As Dr. Chen started the engine, they heard shouting from inside the house. Go, 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 Detective Walsh urged, and Doctor. Chen peeled out, tires squealing. Looking back, Tommy saw the black sedan pulling out to follow them. They're coming, he said, his voice small and scared. Detective Walsh was on her radio again, reporting their location and direction. We need to get somewhere public, she said, somewhere with witnesses. The veterinary hospital, Doctor, Chen said, taking a sharp turn. It's always busy on Saturdays, and I have surgical facilities there for Bruno. They drove in tense silence for several minutes, the black sedan maintaining a steady distance behind them. Then suddenly, it turned off onto a side street and disappeared. They gave up? Maria asked hopefully. No, Detective Walsh said grimly. They're regrouping, planning something else. Tommy had been quiet, his eyes closed, his hand still touching Bruno, Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. "The other dogs know we're coming," Bruno told them. "They're hoping. They're all hoping so hard it hurts my chest. But the bad men are getting ready to move them. Tonight. They're going to take them far away where no one will ever find them." "How many dogs, Tommy?" Detective Walsh asked. Tommy's face scrunched in concentration. "Numbers are hard, but more than 20. Less than 50. Some are puppies, some are old, some are..." His voice broke. "Some are dying." Dr. Chen pulled into the veterinary hospital parking lot. It was indeed busy, with several cars and people coming and going with their pets. "We'll be safe here for now," she said. As they helped Bruno inside, drawing curious and concerned looks from other pet owners, Tommy suddenly grabbed Detective Walsh's sleeve. "Bruno says you have to hurry. Mr. Sterling is angry now. When he's angry, dogs die. He's going to kill them all rather than get caught. He's done it before in other places." Detective Walsh's face hardened. "Not this time." "Not if I can help it." Inside the veterinary hospital, Doctor Chen quickly commandeered an examination room. As she worked on Bruno, with Tommy refusing to leave his side, Detective Walsh made call after call, building her case, rallying resources. Maria and Carlos stood close together, watching their 5-year-old son comfort a traumatized dog while relaying information that could save dozens of lives. Their normal Saturday had shattered into something unrecognizable, something that felt like a movie, except it was happening to them, right now, in their real lives. "Daddy," Tommy said suddenly, looking up with tears streaming down his face. "Bruno says thank you. He says we're the first humans in a long time who listened instead of hurt. He says..." Tommy paused, listening to something only he could hear. "He says even if he doesn't make it, at least he got to remember what kindness feels like." "He's going to make it," Carlos said firmly, his own eyes wet. "We're going to make sure of it." Dr. Chen looked up from her work. "The collar has to come off. It's interfering with my equipment, and I think it might be doing more than just tracking and shocking. The way it's positioned, those electrodes are near nerve clusters. Extended exposure could cause permanent damage." "Or control," Tommy said quietly. "Bruno says sometimes the collar makes dogs do things they don't want to do. Makes them mean even when they're not." Detective Walsh's phone rang. She answered, listened, then her face lit up. "We got it. Emergency warrant for the Sunshine Bakery complex. SWAT is mobilizing now." "We have to go with them," Tommy said urgently. "The dogs won't trust anyone else. They're too scared. They'll fight or hide, and people might get hurt." "Absolutely not," Maria said immediately. "Tommy, you're 5 years old. You're not going anywhere near those dangerous men." "But Mom..." "Your mother's right," Detective Walsh said gently. "It's too dangerous for a child." Tommy's face crumpled, but then Bruno made a soft sound, almost like speech. Tommy listened, then nodded. "Bruno says he understands. But he says, can you take something with you? His smell. On a cloth or something. So the other dogs know you're friends, so they know help is really coming." Detective Walsh smiled slightly. "That we can do." Dr. Chen provided a towel that Bruno had been lying on, sealed in a plastic bag. "This might actually help," she admitted. "Scared dogs respond to familiar scents." As Detective Walsh prepared to leave, Tommy grabbed her hand. "Bruno says, be careful of the man with the scar on his neck. He's meaner than Mr. Sterling. He likes hurting things. And watch for the white door at the bottom of the stairs. That's where the sick dogs are, the ones they experiment on." "Experiment?" Detective Walsh's voice was sharp. Tommy nodded, his young face far too serious for his age. "Bruno doesn't understand all of it, but they give dogs shots that change them, make them stronger or meaner or different. Some dogs don't survive. The ones that do aren't the same anymore." Detective Walsh knelt down to Tommy's level. "You and Bruno might have just saved a lot of lives today. You're a hero, you know that?" Tommy shook his head. "Bruno's the hero. He escaped even though he knew they'd hurt him for it. He survived in that washing machine for 2 days just hoping someone would hear him. And then..." Tommy smiled slightly through his tears. "And then I did." As Detective Walsh left, Dr. Chen continued working on Bruno, finally managing to disable the collar's shocking mechanism, though she couldn't remove it entirely yet. Bruno's breathing had steadied, and his eyes, while still pained, had lost some of their desperate fear. "He needs surgery, doctor," Chen announced. "The leg break is worse than I thought. But he's stable enough now. It'll take a few hours." "We'll wait," Carlos said firmly. As they settled into the waiting room, Tommy curled up in a chair, exhausted from the emotional toll of the morning. But even as his eyes closed, he kept muttering things, messages from Bruno, updates from the network of dogs that somehow, impossibly, he could hear. "They're at the bad place," he murmured sleepily. "The police. The dogs can hear them. They're scared, but also hoping. So much hoping it makes the air sparkle." Maria stroked her son's hair, wondering how their life had changed so drastically in just a few hours. This morning, her biggest concern had been what to make for lunch. Now, her son was at the center of an interstate dog-fighting investigation, marked by dangerous criminals for an ability she didn't understand. Carlos's phone buzzed with a text from Detective Walsh. "We're going in. We'll update soon." The waiting began. In the surgical suite, Doctor Chen worked to save Bruno's leg. In an industrial complex across town, law enforcement prepared to raid a nightmare hidden beneath abandoned buildings. And in a veterinary waiting room, a small boy with an extraordinary gift dozed fitfully, his mind filled with the voices of dogs he'd never met but somehow knew, all of them waiting, hoping, praying in their wordless way for rescue. Tommy stirred, his eyes opening suddenly. "They're going in," he said, sitting up straight. "The dogs can hear them coming down the stairs. They're barking now, all of them. They're saying, 'We're here! We're here! Please find us!'" He grabbed his mother's hand, his small fingers squeezing tight. Some of them had been waiting so long they'd given up hope. But now they believe again. The next hour passed in tense silence, broken only by Tommy's occasional updates from his impossible connection to the rescue scene. Then finally, Detective Walsh called. Carlos put her on speaker. "We got them," she said, her voice thick with emotion. 31 dogs, all alive. Sterling and 5 others in custody. And you were right about the experiments. We found a whole laboratory down there. This is going to make national news. "Bruno wants to know about Max," Tommy said urgently. "His friend Max? Is he okay?" There was a pause. "We found a German Shepherd mix named Max according to his cage label. He's in rough shape but alive. Very aggressive though. We can't get near him safely." "Tell them to use Bruno's towel," Tommy said, "and tell them to say Bruno's name. Max will understand that help finally came." After relaying the message and ending the call, they sat in stunned silence. It was over, or at least this part was over. The immediate danger had passed, the dogs were safe, the bad men were arrested. But as Tommy looked up at his parents with those 2 wise eyes, they knew this was also just the beginning. Their son had a gift that defied explanation, one that had saved lives today but had also put him on the radar of dangerous people. "What happens now?" Maria asked quietly. Before anyone could answer, Doctor Chen emerged from surgery, pulling off her surgical cap. "Bruno's going to be fine," she announced, smiling at their relieved faces. "The leg will heal, though he'll always have a slight limp. He's a fighter, in the good way." "Can I see him?" Tommy asked. "He's still waking up from anesthesia, but yes, briefly." They followed her to the recovery room, where Bruno lay on a padded table, his leg in a cast. IV lines running into his front leg. His eyes were open but glazed, still foggy from the drugs. Tommy approached slowly, placing his small hand on Bruno's head. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved them all. You're the bravest dog in the whole world." Bruno's tail wagged weakly, and he made a soft sound that almost seemed like contentment. "He says thank you," Tommy translated, looking up at his parents. "He says we're his family now, if that's okay." Carlos and Maria looked at each other, then at their son's hopeful face, then at the brave dog who had endured so much. "Of course it's okay," Maria said, tears flowing freely now. "He's family." As they stood there in the recovery room, a strange sense of completion settled over them. They'd started the day as an ordinary family, and were ending it as something else entirely. Guardians of an extraordinary gift, protectors of an incredible dog, and part of a story that would ripple outward in ways they couldn't yet imagine. But that was for tomorrow to worry about. For now, they were together, they were safe, and 31 dogs were free because a 5-year-old boy had heard a cry for help that no one else could hear and had refused to ignore it. Tommy leaned against his father's leg, his hand still on Bruno's head, and for the first time all day, he smiled a real little boy smile. Bruno says he's never had a real family before. He says it feels like sunshine inside his chest. "That's what family does," Carlos said softly, pulling his wife and son close. "It makes everything brighter." Outside, the afternoon sun was indeed shining, casting golden light through the windows of the recovery room. Somewhere across town, traumatized dogs were taking their first breaths of free air in months or years. Dangerous men were being processed into jail cells. And in a small veterinary hospital in Texas, a boy who could hear the hearts of animals stood with his family and their new dog, knowing that sometimes the most extraordinary things begin with simply listening when someone calls for help. The sound of barking filled the Martinez house 3 days later. Not distressed or angry barking, but something almost like conversation. Tommy sat cross-legged on the living room floor, Bruno beside him with his casted legs stretched out, while 6 other rescued dogs surrounded them in a loose circle. Detective Walsh had brought them here temporarily, nowhere else to house them, while the investigation continued. "What are they saying?" Maria asked, setting down sandwiches for lunch, still amazed at how naturally she'd come to accept her son's impossible gift. Tommy's eyes were closed, his face peaceful, despite the chaos of multiple dogs in their small living room. They're sharing stories. About before, when they had families. Rex there, he pointed to a scarred pit bull. He used to sleep in a little girl's bed every night. She called him her guardian angel. And Daisy, a trembling beagle mix. She was a therapy dog at a nursing home. She misses the old people. She says they smelled like medicine and peppermints. Carlos watched from the doorway, still in his work clothes from an early shift. 3 days since their world had turned upside down, and already it felt like this was how things had always been. "Tommy, your mom and I need to talk to you about something." The boy opened his eyes, immediately sensing the serious tone. "Are we in trouble? Because of the dogs?" "No, buddy." But Detective Walsh called. "The FBI wants to meet you. They've heard about your ability. They think you might be able to help with other cases, other animals that need help." Tommy's hand found Bruno's fur, an anchor. He always sought when overwhelmed. "Bruno says to be careful. Not everyone who says they want to help really does." Before Carlos could respond, the doorbell rang. Through the window, they could see Dr. Chen's pickup truck, but she wasn't alone. A man in an expensive suit stood beside her, and even from inside, something about his posture set everyone on edge. "I don't like him," Tommy said immediately, though he hadn't even seen the man clearly. "The dogs don't like him. He smells wrong." Carlos opened the door cautiously. Dr. Chen's face was tight with worry. "Mr. Martinez, this is Federal Agent Morrison. He insisted on coming to speak with you about Tommy." Agent Morrison extended his hand, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Mr. Martinez, I've heard remarkable things about your son. May I come in?" Every dog in the house had gone silent, their eyes fixed on the doorway. Bruno struggled to his feet despite his cast, a low growl building in his chest. "I don't think that's a good idea," Carlos said firmly. "Whatever you need to discuss, we can do it here." Morrison's smile flickered. "Your son has a gift that could be invaluable to national security. We've had reports of his ability to communicate with animals. Do you understand what that could mean for military and police K-9 units? For search and rescue operations?" "He's 5 years old," Maria said, appearing beside her husband. "He's not a tool for the government." "Of course not," Morrison said smoothly. "We simply want to understand his ability. Perhaps run some tests, completely non-invasive, of course. The potential here is extraordinary." Tommy appeared between his parents, his small face set with determination far beyond his years. "You're lying," he said simply. "You don't care about helping animals. You want to use me to make them do things they don't want to do. Bruno can smell it on you, the fear of other animals. You've hurt them before." Morrison's facade cracked slightly. "Now, listen here, young man." "No," Tommy interrupted, his voice growing stronger. "You listen. The dogs you've worked with, they remember you. Not your name, but your smell, your voice. They tell other dogs, And those dogs tell others. They all know you're bad. The agent's face flushed red. This is ridiculous. I'm trying to offer your family an opportunity to turn our son into a weapon. Carlos stepped forward, his construction worker's frame filling the doorway. Get off our property. Now. Morrison reached into his jacket, and every dog in the house erupted in warning barks. He pulled out a business card, holding it out with a hand that trembled slightly. When you come to your senses, call me. This gift won't stay secret long. Others will come looking, others who won't ask as nicely. After he left Doctor, Chen rushed inside, apologizing profusely. He was waiting at my clinic. Said he was with the investigation. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Maria assured her, though her hands were shaking. Tommy, how did you know he was bad? Tommy sat back down with the dogs, his small shoulders carrying too much weight. It wasn't just Bruno. All animals know him, birds, cats, even the mice in the walls. They all say the same thing. He makes animals into weapons, makes them mean even if they're sweet, changes them until they don't remember who they used to be. That night, after the temporary foster families had picked up the other dogs and the house had quieted, the Martinez family sat around their kitchen table with Detective Walsh, who'd come as soon as she heard about Morrison's visit. He's not officially FBI, she said, scrolling through her phone. He works for a private military contractor that trains animals for combat zones. They must have heard about Tommy through the investigation leaks. There have been leaks? Carlos's voice was sharp. The story's too big. 31 dogs rescued, an interstate fighting ring, and a boy who can supposedly talk to animals. It's gone beyond local news. National outlets are picking it up. As if to emphasize her point, Maria's phone buzzed with a text from her sister. Just saw you on CNN. Is this real? Is Tommy really psychic with dogs? We need to be careful, Detective Walsh continued. Tommy's gift, whatever it is, makes him valuable to a lot of people. Some good, some not so good. What do you suggest? Maria asked, unconsciously pulling Tommy closer. For now, maintain normal routines. I'll have increased patrols around your house. And maybe we should document what Tommy can do, scientifically, with researchers we trust. If we can understand it, we can protect it better. Tommy, who'd been quiet, suddenly straightened. Bruno says someone's outside. Everyone froze. Detective Walsh's hand went to her service weapon as she moved to the window. A van was parked across the street, its side door open, revealing camera equipment. News crew, she said with disgust. They're filming your house. Over the next week, the situation escalated. Reporters camped outside, calling at all hours. Letters poured in, some offering money for Tommy's services, others calling them frauds or worse. The school called to say other parents were concerned about Tommy being in class with their children. But the worst part was the effect on Tommy himself. The constant noise of desperate voices, not human but animal, had grown louder as news of his gift spread. Dogs, cats, birds, all somehow calling out to the boy who could hear them. My head hurts, Tommy whispered one morning, dark circles under his young eyes. They're all so sad and scared, and I can't help them all. Bruno, despite his healing injuries, never left Tommy's side. The German Shepherd seemed to act as a filter, somehow helping Tommy manage the overwhelming input. It was Bruno who alerted them to the real danger. Tommy was eating breakfast when he suddenly dropped his spoon, his face going pale. Bruno says they're coming back. The bad men. Not Mr. Sterling, he's in jail. But his friends? They want Bruno back, and they want me too. When? Carlos demanded, already reaching for his phone to call Detective Walsh. Tonight. Bruno can smell them gathering. Other dogs from around the city are warning him. They have new trucks, new cages. They're angry about losing money. Detective Walsh arrived within minutes, bringing 2 other officers. We're taking this seriously, she said, but we need more specific information. Tommy closed his eyes, his hand on Bruno's head. The connection between them was almost visible now, an intensity that made the air feel charged. There are 5 men. They're at a warehouse near water. Bruno can smell salt and fish. They have guns and poles with loops on them for catching dogs. They're planning to come at 2 a.m. when everyone's asleep. That's incredibly specific, one of the officers said skeptically. Tommy opened his eyes, and they were filled with tears. The dogs they already caught are telling Bruno everything. They took 3 more yesterday, a golden retriever named Honey, a husky named Storm, and a little terrier named Buttons. Buttons is just a puppy. She's so scared she won't stop shaking. Detective Walsh was already on her radio, calling in units to search waterfront warehouses. "We'll find them," she promised Tommy. "We'll get them back." But Tommy shook his head. "There's more. The man in charge, his name is Kruger. He worked with Mr. Sterling, but he's meaner. He doesn't care about money. He just likes hurting things. Bruno says he's the one who taught the dogs to fight by—" Tommy's voice broke. "By making them watch him hurt their friends." The room fell silent except for Tommy's quiet sobs. Maria held him close while Carlos's fists clenched with barely controlled rage. "We'll stop them," Detective Walsh said firmly. "I promise you that." That afternoon, while police searched for the warehouse, something unexpected happened. A woman appeared at their door, elderly, well-dressed, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "My name is Dr. Elizabeth Hartley," she said when Carlos answered. "I'm a researcher in animal cognition at the university. I've been following your son's story, and I believe I might be able to help." Carlos was about to refuse when Tommy appeared, Bruno limping beside him. The boy studied the woman for a moment, then smiled, his first real smile in days. "Bruno says you're okay. You smell like books and cats and kindness." Dr. Hartley's eyes widened slightly. "I have 3 cats, actually, and I've spent my life studying human-animal communication. What your son is experiencing, it's not unprecedented." "It's not?" Maria asked, inviting her in. Throughout history, there have been documented cases of individuals with heightened empathic connections to animals, usually children, usually temporary. But Tommy's case seems different, stronger, more consistent. She pulled out a tablet, showing them research, papers, and historical accounts. In Mongolia, there are stories of children who could call eagles. In India, snake charmers who claim true communication with serpents. Even in modern times, we've documented people who seem to have an unusual ability to understand animal behavior and emotional states. But Tommy doesn't just understand them, Carlos pointed out. He knows things he couldn't possibly know. Specific names, locations, events. Dr. Hartley nodded eagerly. That's what makes his case extraordinary. It suggests something beyond mere empathy, perhaps a form of telepathy we don't yet understand. With your permission, I'd like to study Tommy's ability. Not to exploit it, she added quickly, seeing their expressions, but to understand it, to help him manage it. Tommy had been quiet, listening. Now he spoke up. "Bruno says you lost a dog when you were little, a beagle named Patches. You still dream about him sometimes." Dr. Hartley's composed facade cracked, tears filling her eyes. "How could you possibly—" Yes, I did. He died when I was 7. I've spent my whole career trying to understand the bond we shared." "He loved you too," Tommy said simply. "Dogs don't forget love, even after they're gone. Bruno says they carry it with them to the next place." That evening, as Dr. Hartley worked with Tommy on some basic exercises to help him focus his ability, Detective Walsh called with news. They'd found the warehouse and arrested Kruger and his men. The 3 stolen dogs were safe, though traumatized. "But there's something else," Walsh said, her voice troubled. "We found documentation. This isn't just about dogfighting anymore. Kruger was collecting specific dogs, ones that showed unusual intelligence or training ability. He was planning to sell them to overseas buyers for military purposes." "Military purposes?" Carlos repeated. "Attack dogs." But more than that. They were trying to create something, enhance natural abilities through training and other methods. Tommy disrupted more than just a fighting ring. He exposed what might be an international trafficking operation. As night fell, the Martinez house felt like a fortress. Police cars sat at both ends of the street. Dr. Hartley had stayed, setting up monitoring equipment with Tommy's permission to try to understand his gift. The rescued dogs from the warehouse had been brought to the house at Tommy's insistence. He said they needed to feel safe before they could go to new foster homes. Tommy sat in the center of it all, a 5-year-old boy carrying the weight of abilities he didn't fully understand. Bruno never left his side, the injured German shepherd somehow standing guard despite his cast. "It's getting stronger," Tommy said quietly to his parents as they tucked him into bed. The hearing. Not just dogs now, cats, birds, even the squirrels in the yard. They all want to talk. They all have things to say. Is it too much? Maria asked, smoothing his hair back. Tommy thought for a moment. Sometimes. But Bruno helps. He teaches me how to listen without drowning, like putting your head underwater but still being able to breathe. That night, at exactly 2 a.m., Bruno started barking, not an alarm, but in greeting. Tommy woke immediately, padding to the window with his parents close behind. Outside, illuminated by streetlights, was an extraordinary sight. Dogs, dozens of them, all sitting quietly in their front yard, facing the house. Some were clearly strays, others wore collars suggesting they'd slipped away from homes. All were perfectly still, perfectly silent, except for Bruno's continued greeting. "What are they doing?" Carlos whispered. Tommy pressed his hand against the window, his eyes wide with wonder. "They came to say thank you." Word spread through the city, dog to dog, pack to pack. They know we're helping. They know we're listening. Dr. Hartley, who'd been sleeping on the couch, joined them at the window. She was already recording, her scientific mind racing even as tears rolled down her cheeks. This is unprecedented, coordinated behavior across multiple unrelated animals. Tommy, can you understand them all? Tommy nodded slowly. They're not really talking. It's more like feeling, gratitude, hope. They're saying other humans are starting to listen too, starting to pay attention in ways they haven't before. One by one, the dogs began to disperse, returning to wherever they'd come from. But the message was clear. Tommy's gift had awakened something, started something that was spreading beyond their small Texas town. The next morning brought a call that would change everything. Detective Walsh's voice was tense with excitement. "We've had a breakthrough." The documents from Kruger's warehouse included client lists, international buyers, including some terrorist organizations. The FBI, the real FBI, not Morrison's group, wants to build a case. They need Tommy's help. "Absolutely not," Maria said immediately. "Hear me out. They're not asking him to do anything dangerous. They have seized animals from other raids, dogs that might have information about their handlers, their training camps. If Tommy could communicate with them." Carlos and Maria exchanged looks. Their son's gift had already made him a target. Could using it officially make things better or worse? Tommy himself made the decision. "Bruno says we have to help. Some of these dogs have seen really bad things, things that could help stop really bad people. If I don't help, more animals and people will get hurt." The meeting was arranged for that afternoon at the veterinary hospital, neutral ground where Tommy felt safe. Real FBI agents, verified by Detective Walsh, brought 3 dogs that had been recovered from a suspected terrorist cell in another state. The first was a Belgian Malinois named Ghost, scarred and suspicious, who wouldn't let anyone near him. Tommy sat on the floor, Bruno beside him, and simply waited. After 10 minutes, Ghost crept forward, drawn by something invisible. "He was stolen from a military base," Tommy said quietly, his eyes closed. "His handler was named Sergeant Cole. Ghost tried to find his way back, but bad men caught him. They tried to make him forget his training, make him mean, but he remembered Sergeant Cole's voice in his head, telling him to be good, be strong." One of the FBI agents was typing rapidly. Sergeant James Cole, K9 handler, reported his dog missing 8 months ago in Afghanistan. The dog was presumed dead. "He's not dead," Tommy said firmly. "He wants to go home. He knows things about the bad men's camp, where they kept weapons, where they planned to go. He memorized it all, hoping someone would ask him someday." Over the next 2 hours, Tommy extracted detailed information from all 3 dogs. Locations, faces, voices, routines, things the animals had observed and remembered with surprising clarity. The FBI agents were stunned. "This intelligence could save lives," one said. "With proper verification, this could prevent attacks." But the session had exhausted Tommy. He leaned against Bruno, pale and shaking. "Too much," he whispered. "Too many pictures, too many sad things." Dr. Hartley intervened immediately. "That's enough for today. Tommy's brain is still developing. This kind of intense psychic connection, if that's what it is, could be harmful if pushed too hard." As they prepared to leave, one of the FBI agents pulled Carlos aside. "Your son has a gift that could help national security. We'd like to formalize an arrangement, completely voluntary, with full protection for your family. Tommy would only work with animals in controlled, safe environments. Full compensation, security detail, the works. He's 5 years old," Carlos repeated what had become a mantra. "We know. We're not monsters, Mr. Martinez. We're talking about maybe once a month, only with animals that might have critical information, always with you present. Think about it." That night, as the family tried to process everything, Tommy made an announcement that stunned them all. "I want to teach others," he said over dinner. "Bruno says the gift isn't just mine. Other kids have it too, but nobody helps them understand it. They think they're weird or crazy. I want to find them and teach them how to listen properly." "How would we even do that?" Maria asked. Tommy smiled, looking more like the carefree 5-year-old he should have been. "Bruno says the animals will help us find them. Dogs know which humans can hear them. They always have. They just stopped trying to talk to most of us because we stopped listening." Dr. Hartley, who joined them for dinner, nearly dropped her fork. A school for human-animal communication. It sounds impossible, but then again, a week ago I would have said all of this was impossible. Over the following weeks, their lives found a strange new rhythm. Tommy worked with the FBI on a limited basis, always with strict controls and time limits. Dr. Hartley documented his abilities while helping him develop techniques to manage the overwhelming input. Detective Walsh coordinated with animal rescue organizations, using Tommy's gift to help locate and save abused animals. But the most remarkable development was the other children who began to emerge. A girl in California who'd been institutionalized for insisting she could hear her cat's thoughts. A boy in Maine who'd run away from home because the voices of suffering animals in a nearby factory farm were driving him mad. One by one, families reached out, desperate for help with children who claimed impossible connections to animals. "It's like Tommy opened a door, Doctor," Hartley marveled, reviewing her growing case files. "Or maybe the door was always there, and he just showed us it existed." The first gathering was small, just 3 other children and their families meeting at a ranch outside Austin that Dr. Hartley had arranged to use. Tommy, despite being the youngest, was clearly the strongest in his ability, but watching him work with the other children, teaching them Bruno's techniques for filtering and focusing, was remarkable. "You have to be like water," he explained to a 7-year-old girl named Lucy, who was overwhelmed by her connection to birds. "Let the voices flow through you, not into you. Bruno says if you try to hold them all, you'll break. But if you let them flow, you can feel them without drowning." The girl closed her eyes, her face relaxing for the first time since she'd arrived. "Oh," she breathed. "Oh, I can hear them without it hurting." 6 months after finding Bruno in the washing machine, the Martinez family's life had transformed completely. Their small house had become a hub for what Dr. Hartley was calling interspecies empathic research. Tommy worked with traumatized animals, helped law enforcement with cases involving animal abuse, and taught other gifted children how to manage their abilities. But it wasn't without cost. The constant attention, the pressure, the responsibility, it was a lot for a 5-year-old to bear. Some nights Tommy would crawl into his parents' bed, crying from the weight of all the animal voices he couldn't help. "I can hear them all," he would sob. "All the hurt ones, all the scared ones, all the lonely ones. I can't save them all, Mommy. I can't." It was Bruno who provided the answer, as he so often did. One night, as Tommy lay curled up in distress, the German Shepherd, now fully healed though with a permanent limp, did something extraordinary. He began to howl, a long, low sound that seemed to carry beyond the walls of the house. Within minutes, other dogs joined in from around the neighborhood, then more from farther away. The howling spread like ripples on water, carrying across the city. "What are they doing?" Maria asked, watching Tommy's face transform from anguish to wonder. "They're sharing it," Tommy whispered. "Bruno taught them. They're sharing the burden. No one dog has to carry all the sadness. They pass it between them, make it smaller, make it bearable. Like a network, Doctor." Hartley breathed, having rushed over when she heard the howling from her apartment. "They're creating an emotional network, distributing the psychological load." Tommy sat up, his young face bright with revelation. "That's what we need to do. Not just me helping all the animals, but teaching all the animals to help each other, and teaching all the people who can hear them to work together too. The idea grew from there. Within a year, what had started as one boy's extraordinary gift had evolved into a movement. The Listening Hearts Network, as it came to be called, connected gifted individuals around the world, mostly children, but some adults who had retained or rediscovered their ability. They worked together, sharing the load of animal communication, helping law enforcement, assisting in search and rescue operations, and most importantly, bridging the gap between human and animal worlds that had grown so wide over centuries. Tommy remained at the heart of it all, though the weight was now shared among many. Bruno, his constant companion, had become something of a legend, the dog whose cry for help had started it all. One evening, as Tommy sat in the backyard with Bruno, surrounded by the foster dogs that always seemed to find their way to their home, a reporter asked him what he'd learned from all of this. Tommy thought carefully, his hand resting on Bruno's head. "I learned that everyone is calling for help in their own way. Animals, people, everyone. But most of us have forgotten how to listen. Bruno reminded me that listening, really listening, is the bravest thing you can do." "And what would you tell other kids who might have this gift?" the reporter asked. Tommy smiled, looking wise beyond his 6 years now. "Don't be scared of it. The voices might seem like too much at first, but you're hearing them for a reason. You're meant to help, and you're not alone. There are others like us, and animals like Bruno, who can teach us." As the interview ended and the reporter packed up, Tommy's parents watched their son playing with the dogs, his laughter mixing with barks and yips in a symphony of interspecies joy. Their normal life was gone forever, replaced by something strange and wonderful and occasionally terrifying. "Do you ever regret opening the door that morning?" Maria asked Carlos as they stood together on the porch. Carlos pulled her close, watching their extraordinary son do extraordinary things as naturally as breathing. "Never. Tommy was meant to find Bruno. Or maybe Bruno was meant to find Tommy. Either way, they're changing the world, one rescued soul at a time." That night, as the Martinez family settled in for bed, Tommy made one last check on his network, not through any device, but through the invisible threads that connected him to animals near and far. All, across the city, the state, the country, and beyond, he could feel them, the rescued ones safe in new homes, the wild ones free in their habitats, the working ones proud in their service, and yes, still too many suffering ones waiting for help. But now, they had hope, because a 5-year-old boy had heard a dog crying in a broken washing machine and had refused to ignore it. Because that dog had refused to give up, even when trapped and dying. Because together, they'd proven that the connection between humans and animals wasn't lost. It was just waiting to be rediscovered. "Bruno?" Tommy whispered in the darkness of his room. A soft woof answered him, followed by the warm weight of the German shepherd settling beside his bed, ever vigilant, ever faithful. "Thank you for calling for help that day." Through their connection, clearer than any words, came Bruno's response. "Thank you for listening." 3 years passed. Tommy was now 8, and the Listening Hearts Network had grown into an international organization. Dr. Hartley had published groundbreaking research on interspecies communication. Detective Walsh had been promoted to head a new division focusing on animal-related crimes. The Martinez family had moved to a larger property on the outskirts of town, converting it into a sanctuary and training center for both gifted humans and traumatized animals. But the most remarkable change was in the world itself. The story of the boy who could talk to animals had sparked something, a shift in how humanity viewed its relationship with other species. Animal abuse cases were solved faster, lost pets were reunited with their families more often, wildlife conservation efforts were aided by communication with the animals themselves. Yet, challenges remained. Not everyone believed in or supported the gift. Some saw it as fraud, others as dangerous. There were still those who wanted to exploit it for profit or power. One autumn morning, Tommy woke to Bruno pawing at him urgently. The now elderly German shepherd's muzzle had grown gray, but his eyes remained sharp. "What is it, boy?" Tommy asked, immediately alert. Through their connection came not words, but images. A massive factory farm 2 states away. Thousands of animals in distress and something worse. Plans, documents. a disease being deliberately spread among the livestock.